We often think, don't we, when you think about it, that, if a royal asks you to do something or indeed appear at certain things, you will be absolutely flattered. I mean, it is the story, isn't it? When you think about the coronation celebration concert, lots of people were saying, oh, Taylor Swift wouldn't come. She was in the middle of a world tour. Other people were busy, like Kylie Minogue, busy, so they turn it into a negative. But of course, when you are at the helm of, say, an international name, and more importantly, a royal command comes your way, you may have thought, well, perhaps I should consider this, which makes this particular story even more very alarming. As ever, let me explain. Hi, how are you? You're right. Well, I'm glad to see you. Lovely flowers. Do you like the flowers hanging? Love them, don't you? By the way, can we just give a shout out to people who do wonderful hanging baskets and decorations hanging off buildings and stuff like that? What an art it is, because to get them planted in the right bit to make sure they hang down, I think it's very, very tastefully done. Have you got a hanging basket? You have. Well, share it with us. Send me a picture, put it up on the comments and stuff. Just let's see. We'll share them out. It's the time of year to be sharing flowers, absolutely. But aren't they lovely, really? Seriously, you look at them and you think, just beautiful the way they do them. And as I say, I think a lot of people don't get the credit for their talent that they can do. I'm useless, but I love looking at, as you can imagine, beautiful flowers, greenery, scenery, all of that sort of stuff, and I'm so glad that so many of you enjoy it too. Back as ever to your royal story of the day. Cast your mind back to the mid-60s. I know, well, a mere whippersnapper, of course, for many of us. I wasn't there, let me point out. I have to keep reminding people of this. When they mention the war, you think, which war? The Boer War? How old do you think I am? Seriously. But when you think about this particular story, it is fascinating because it's been backed up by none other than a couple of Bonds that I was lucky enough to interview, Sir Roger Moore and Daniel Craig. And what was interesting about this was, the movie You Only Live Twice, which was, of course, starring the brilliant Sir Sean Connery, was now on a roll. They knew that they were literally running high with the Bond franchise. Wherever it went around the world, it was worth millions. And as you can imagine, this was a sort of great ambassadorial role for Sean Connery, even though he wanted to leave the franchise, didn't want to get typecast, all of that sort of stuff. But you see, the bigger problem that they had with Bond was having to find who they could now get to sing those famous theme tunes. We all know, of course, the brilliant Matt Monro with From Russia With Love, the equally fantastic Dame Shirley Bassey with Goldfinger, and there was a big search on to find out who they could get. Now, when it came to You Only Live Twice, they were casting their eyes towards the brilliant Aretha Franklin. What a voice, what a lady. And who remembers also, I just thought they were brilliant, the Walker Brothers. Yes, they were even considered for this. But apparently there was one person, and this is where it got interesting because the power of the British monarchy. We told you that they were very big fans of the Bond movies, and apparently in passing with a meeting, the producer Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman said to Princess Margaret, well, who do you think should sing the next Bond theme then? And without a moment's hesitation, she said, well, there can only be one person, can't they? This man, that's right, Francis Albert Sinatra. And you would have thought, yep, absolutely, biggest star in the world, and of course, really having something of a comeback, all thanks to starting his own record label, Reprise. But Frank was having none of it. And again, it became really interesting because, as many people now know, his daughter Nancy Sinatra took up the mantle. But apparently Cubby Broccoli wasn't having it and offered him, in what you call today's money, around about £1 million. Even sort of similar, okay, if we take Nancy, how about you doing a duet? No, as we know, that was a little bit further down the line, very successfully with Something Stupid. Frank was adamant he didn't want to do it. But apparently, according to Sir Roger Moore, who became a very good friend of Frank Sinatra, there was a bigger reason behind it, and it was all ego. Even apparently the royals couldn't get him to change his mind. You see, as you know with the Bond movies, you're not seen. I mean, that actually came around all thanks to the 80s and Sheena Easton. She was the very first singer to be seen in the credits of a Bond movie. And she told me that during our interview. Lovely lady, by the way. But fascinating that, because apparently if they'd have let Frank apparently appear, well, maybe, that could have, worked. But they said, well, we can't have somebody singing the theme song and also appearing in the movie. And let's be honest, Frank Sinatra, even then, was still far bigger than anything to do with Bond. He wasn't having it, and even an interception from Princess Margaret couldn't make him change his mind. Possibly the only time that she's ever been rebuffed, I'm sure you'll imagine. Of course, his daughter Nancy Sinatra took on the mantle, and that became a big hit for her. But what might have been if Frank had have gone down, of course, in the claims of halls of fame of singing a Bond movie? But apparently it wasn't meant to be, even for £1 million, and by a special request from one of our favourite royals too. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.